I will take the opportunity to introduce and invite on stage Sumir Bhatia, President for Asia Pacific Infrastructure Solutions Group. We
Great
will
to have
need a
you here.
louder
Come,
clap
please.
if we want Sumir to give you his best. Joining Sumir will be Santosh Vishwanathan, Managing Director of Intel India. And joining them would be Mr. Prateek Pashine, President, Enterprise Business at Reliance Jio.
Prateek, good to have you. Please come, join us. Please.
So we've made sure that this session is going to be a hard one. So we also picked our moderator. We have Manpreet Singh Ahuja, who's the Chief Digital Officer at PwC, whose entire business is to transform digitally.
All yours.
So Manpreet, on that note, the next 30 minutes is all yours.
All right, come.
Well, thank you so much, and thank you, industry captains, for being here on a very, very interesting topic. We've been hearing about 5G revolutionizing everything, 5G as the catalyst that's going to converge various technologies and make business disruption come to life. So let's demystify that a little bit together and make it come to life for large and small businesses that may be listening to us. So, I think from my perspective, we're talking about innovation that drives growth in the era of 5G. And really, when it comes to 5G, we all think of lightning speed. We all think of potentially at its best 100 times faster speeds, 10 times faster uploads and downloads. But there's a lot more beyond speed that 5G has to bring to table, and that's really where the power of business transformation comes in. There is clearly much higher device capacity. There is reliable connections. There is much lower latencies, and all of this put together into a private network is where the opportunities begin to start unfolding. Whether it is remote work, whether it is edge computing, whether it's improving app performance, autonomous vehicles, powering smart cities. I mean, you pick up a sector and there's got a possibility of a disruption underlying that. It's machines talking to machines, it's stronger customer engagement, it's creating a significantly different experience for employees, and it's a ton of data that gets generated for you to take quicker and smarter decisions at the edge. So that, my dear friends, is the power of 5G and a whole bunch of disruption that could be happening in this space. With this as a context, I'm going to bring in our guests here to share in a couple of minutes their broad perspective on what they see as the 5G opportunity here. And then with that, we'll get into a discussion. Can I pick Santosh, you to start?
Yeah, so first of all, thank you, Lenovo team, for having us here. And thanks for putting my older brother's picture on the slide as well. But it's exciting to be here. And I think, one of the things that really excites me, and I've been outside of the country for almost 2 decades, I just think that this is a very pivotal moment for India. And everything has changed after the pandemic. And whether it's, how technology rolled out in the country or how newer technologies like 5G are getting into the country, all of these are tipping point moments for the country, and we're really excited to be part of that. So thank you for having us here.
Fantastic. So Prateek, you're at the helm of bringing 5G to life for people. How do you see enterprises exploiting the opportunity, and any quick reactions?
So thank you, first of all, Lenovo team, for inviting me here. 5G, you rightly said, is beyond just high-speed internet. And I think it's probably for the first time that it's going to truly break the digital divide between haves and have-nots. The access to fiber is still limited in this country. 20 cities would probably see fiber. We ourselves are present in 800, but we can't claim to have a ubiquitous fiber presence. So people who have fiber have a different world or opportunity to do various things with it, which the fiber denied set of customers don't have. And I think 5G breaks that barrier. But we'll talk about 5G doing beyond just connectivity. But I think for the vast majority of customers here, I think the democratization of access is going to be the first important aspect of 5G.
Democratization is where the disruption begins. Sumir.
Yeah, thank you. First of all, it's good to go last because you said all the nice things, and I just have to add a few. But Prateek, I totally agree with you. you know, 5G is great, and Manpreet, you talked about what it can deliver, but I look at it like a highway, and what you put on the highway is what is going to benefit you. Looking at the edge, looking at a lot of AI is going to actually really help organizations thrive and grow. And you talked about smart cities, but it's not just smart cities. Why not smart villages, smart towns? How do you take this to, and that's where technology will take it, to places that didn't have this technology. I believe that 5G will change the way we live. It will change the way we learn. It will change the way we work, and it'll change the way we play. And it's not when I say we here in these cities. And I know you mentioned fiber is an issue, but we'll get there, right? We'll get there. But it's across. And I think when Amar was talking earlier, he talked about India to Bharat. And that is what I think 5G will fuel.
Fantastic. And what I love about the panel is it's basically the three of them and maybe consultants like us trying to stitch the story together for enterprises to bring the opportunity to life. So it's an interesting one. Let's see what this ecosystem has to offer. So Prateek, if I can go first with you. And again, to demystify, you know, I mean, there's been a lot of conversations around 5G and the promises of 5G. And, you know, some people are skeptics as well. But just to bring everybody on the same page, can you share the journey of Jio from 4G to where we are today? The whole, you know, true 5G, the indigenous 5G tech stack. I mean, where is it that we are today for the corporate?
I think he's saying the volume up. They can't hear.
Oh,
Speak louder, yeah.
sure. I'm usually the one who's louder, so you know, thanks for pointing out. So let me start that again with Prateek. You know, the question really, Prateek, for you is, can you share the journey from where we are at this point in time, from the 4G journey that Jio had started, to the true 5G, the indigenous 5G tech stack, and really, you know, the exciting opportunity that you see ahead in terms of the stack being made available to people?
Sure. So today, we beam 4G across the length and breadth of the country. 99.5% of habitable landmass in India has 4G connectivity. We carry about 65% of the mobile internet in this country. So that's the traffic that we carry. And by end of December 2023, we would have all tehsil talukas of this country covered with 5G now. And pretty much 320 odd thousand base stations that beam 4G will start beaming 5G as well. So we would have a ubiquitous 4G and 5G coverage across the length and breadth of the country. That's what we're doing. Coupled with the fact that India becomes the fifth only country to have an indigenous 5G stack, which means while handset manufacturers will be many, but the radio and the core is developed in-house by Jio. So we're rolling out our own Jio infrastructure for a country like India. And that actually has created a lot of interest globally to look at options beyond the Scandinavian and the couple of other countries who have indigenous 5G. They started looking at India to be an exporter of 5G stack.
No, that's, you know, the whole indigenous 5G stack's a very proud India story, and we're all very excited about seeing that capture the whole world. So, Sumira, I'm going to bring you in. As much as, you know, Geos of the world bring in 5G and make it more and more accessible, and Intels of the world bring in the high performance computing to the table, there's a lot of expectations in terms of Lenovo's of the world offering a supercomputer at the hands of people at the edge, in terms of really bringing the use cases to life. So tell us a little bit more about how are you expanding in that space and you know, bringing that supercomputer to people's hands and lives beyond just being a PC company.
Yeah, so, well, the last thing about the PC company, and we are a complete end-to-end company, you know. I'm going to refer back to what Amar said. Q3, 41% of our business came from non-PC. And that was, if you look at our portfolio that we have, right from our enterprise-based servers, that cover all aspects of the, whether it's mid-market, large organizations, hyper-converged infrastructure, storage. I've got some great news. As of yesterday, we just announced that the world's 5th largest storage company came up from number 9 to number 5, going ahead of some of the likes like Hitachi and IBM and Pure. So we moved ahead. And in entry-level storage, we're world number 1. So if you think about it, a lot of people over here really didn't know this. Now, coming to that last point about Edge. Edge is part of that portfolio. And Edge is very critical for 5G. And the portfolio that we have actually is purpose-driven. It is not rehashed servers that you just put in. They're purpose-built for the Edge. Levels of security, ruggedness. So, I mean, they could be in a dusty railway station. This is what's going to actually help at the edge, 5G. Now, I talked about the platforms. I talked about, compute at the edge. What are we going to do with this? It's around data. They want to make sure that you get insights of that data. And you can only do that. We're talking about AI. We're talking about machine learning. And all these aspects are available if you have the right infrastructure at the edge. And today it's a reality. It's available. Use cases, plenty, retail. Talk about, if I go into the rural, how can you manage crop management to give the farmer insights on what the crop portfolio that they should actually put in. What's the right time to harvest? That's one extreme that I talk about. But coming about cities, traffic management, congestion, goes on to sustainability, those aspects. So last I'm going to say, you talked about use cases, and I know you're not going to allow me any more time to go on, but I can spend the whole night here talking about use cases. But let me tell you one use case, right? I'll tell you actually. So there is a colleague of mine, when people were saying, okay, what's the use cases? And I'm going to repeat what he said. He pulled up a drawing that his daughter drew in a crayon. There was an airplane, there's trees, there's a truck, there was a boat, there's buildings and everything. And he said, the edge is everywhere. So what I want to say is the edge is left to your imagination. So yes, utility, retail, finance, banks are using it. And then also in warehouses and factories. We've had a conversation with a customer who came in and said, I'm repatriating from the cloud, but my factory is really off. I've got limited bandwidth. That's a classic case. That's a classic case for them.
Yeah, I think it's a good point you make. It's not the use cases, it's how much you can imagine. In fact, I was reading an interesting quote that said, if you're waiting for somebody else to solve a 5G disruption for your industry and then catch up, for all you care, you might be too late. So it's about figuring out the right time, bandwidth, budgets to be able to start thinking about the agenda sooner than later.
So I just add to what you just said, right? You're right. There will be some champions out there that will build the use cases. And this is an opportunity for all of us to go in and say, oh, this has worked well. How can I use that in my environment?
No, absolutely. And I think just to add to that, I don't think companies are saying, I want to do 5G. 5G is yet another technology. Companies are looking at how do I solve my business problem? Exactly. And that is their transformation agenda. 5G, AI, edge compute, all of these are then the ingredients to solve that business problem. And that's, I think, what 5G will enable. But it's one of the ingredients of a secret sauce that company is trying to solve for.
No, absolutely. And I've got another drill down on this, Prateek. I'll come back to you. But Santosh, the next one's for you. And, we talk about 5G. We talk about a lot of data. We talk about a lot of data processing. And I want to pick up on, this whole chat GPT, that all of us are aware of. And, in 60 days, the 100 million people kind of used it. And each one of those 100 million people are going back to work and thinking, what is generative AI going to do for me? And today, the infrastructure and the technology enables that to happen. So, the question for you, Santosh, really is, how is it that Intel is trying to enable, the whole explosion around AI coming to life for companies and the business benefits around it? But how are you enabling it as a company?
Sure. I think there's two aspects to AI when we look at from this space onwards. One is how can AI help the operator, right? Be more efficient, effective, lower costs in terms of the network. So I think that's one aspect that we go work on. And the second one comes back to what kind of use cases can I go and do once you have edge being intelligent and data getting collected at the edge, right? So from an operator point of view, I think we've been in the process of designing products that really go back and help with that, right? I mean, our latest products have 30% lower power. It has efficiencies built on it that will reduce more add-on cards or any of those accessories you don't need to add. So I think we try and understand the operator's needs and try and build products that kind of helps them go use AI or be more efficient and effective as they build their networks out, right? From a use case, I think we've had that interesting discussion is use case is what you make out of it, right? And in India, I think one of the most exciting things that I've seen as after coming back is everything that we have done here has not been done anywhere else. We're no longer the place that goes and says, oh, this has been done in market A, let's go adapt it to India. We've kind of gone and solved our own problems in our own ways and sometimes solve problems for the world in our own ways. The best example is UPI and the India stack that we have built. I don't think any other country in the world even thought of a model like how payments have been done in India, right? So I think we have an exciting startup community, an exciting entrepreneurship that's available there. And with technology in their hands, I'm sure the use cases are just about to be discovered, right? And we can go build much more on that as we go and start working together.
I think two very important points. I want to reinforce that. I think this explosion of data and the more and more data centers coming into play, I think sustainable compute was very, very important. And I think the 30% efficiency on the chip is something that's very important for the environment and would definitely like to call that out. The second thing I think is also very, very clear here. With 1 billion people in a country and the unique opportunities that we have in terms of things that need to be solved. I mean, the number of hospitals in a traditional world that one will have to take to solve for 1 billion people is going to take maybe another few decades. But 5G use cases around healthcare can solve that for India and be the best-in-class option for the rest of the world to follow. So that is the power of 5G, and that is the opportunity for India at this point in time in bringing that to life. So Sumir, on that, I want to get your perspective. What do you think is the shift in the data management strategies that companies will have to follow to be able to cope up with the scale of what the opportunities, will unfold for them?
So just riding on what Santosh talked about, one is on the ChatGPT AI. First of all, that's helped to make it a household name, right? I mean, it's like everybody knows, all of us in this room, our mothers and fathers, everyone knows about ChatGPT and AI, which is good because it really talks about how you can use data and find insights for data to help in whatever you're doing, whether it's business, whether it's for social cause, it can help. We recently conducted, as I mentioned, in IDC, in partnership with IDC, a report in Asia Pacific and here in India. We talked to 900 CIOs around Asia Pacific, 153 to be precise here in India. And there was some really interesting feedback. First of all, I'll come to data in a second, but they talked about 63% talked about some amount of cloud repatriation. By the way, in India, it was much higher. 88% said that in the next 12 months, they will have some form of edge. Also, coincidentally, 88% said that they would also use AI in some form. Okay, so think about this. 88% said they would use edge, they would use AI. And that obviously, the flow is moving towards the edge. Now, depending who you speak to, I mean, I was reading a Gartner report said in the next 4 years, 75% of data is going to reside outside the data center, right? So, wow. so you think about that, right? So So really everyone, so the problem now comes is, where is my data? It's all over the place. Now in this same report, only, what was the number? It was 8%. 8% was a number that said they have data under one plane or one particular platform. So what it meant is data's everywhere. You think about your organization, when you look for data, is it in one platform? So that is a big challenge. That is a big challenge where organization, because your data's all over the place. And that's where that's a big issue. So you've got to move towards getting into a one platform. Now, once you, obviously that's a journey. You can't do this overnight. You can't get a bulldozer and say, I'm going to change all my platform. It's a journey. You need to start looking at what do you, to Pratik, your point, what do you want to solve for yourself? It's not about edge. It's not about fantastic AI or all those jargons, but what do you want to resolve for your organization? And get that data and then slowly make sure that that is integrated into a platform which is easy accessible, and then work towards getting that one platform. And AI, again, making insights at that edge, you need that infrastructure, you need the platform. And again, look, I've got to earn my salary for the day. So I have to say this again. At Lenovo, we have an amazing end-to-end portfolio on edge and AI services that can actually help. And Amar alluded to this at the outset and the start today. It's not just us; it's about our partners. We don't come and say that we know everything. It is, of course, working with our partners to go and deliver it. So you're going to see a big shift. Just think of that: 88%.
88% edge and 88% AI.
AI.
And hands on the heart, when we
Next
look
12
around.
months.
Yeah.
And in saying some form of edge and AI will be done. And Pratik, as you roll out that 5G, that highway that you have, we got to put really fast cars in it.
No,
And we're helping to put those fast cars in it.
and we have, in fact, rolling out ourselves 1,000 edge cloud nodes by the end of the year, because
Exactly.
you need to truly harness the power of 5G. You also want to bring the data and the compute as close to the edge as possible. So,
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So Pratik, I want to just bring you in for a, while we understand, I'm sure people can think large companies will start exploiting this opportunity. Is there an opportunity for small and medium businesses? You started off the conversation saying it's actually the single biggest sort of bridge to the digital divide. How do small and medium companies make money out of 5G?
I think to start with, the access to technology or access to the highway in itself is an advantage or a disadvantage. And I think that is the fundamental thing that 5G solves. One would get fiber-like speeds ubiquitously in the country. And it opens up a huge opportunity. Today, if I don't have fiber in my office, I can't do very many applications. For example, if I have to do a surveillance of a factory or a warehouse which is remote, and I don't have a good fiber access, I can't do surveillance because video upload won't happen on a 4G or any other connectivity. So you're solving for problems that today SMBs don't get. Large enterprises, everybody has a route to market. They will cater to those 5,000, 6,000 companies which contribute to 2/3 of the spend in the country. But it's the millions of SMBs who, with the access to a fiber-like service, bring about multiple solutions that otherwise were not available. The other thing that I would say is it's not just 5G. For a SMB, the proprietor or founder, he does not even know the word CRM. He knows that he wants to manage his customers better. He does not know HRIS. He knows he has to manage his employees. If somebody comes and shrink wraps all these products and solutions, connectivity, devices, and applications, and gives it to him in a cookie-cut, ready-to-consume manner, that's when the SMBs would truly leverage the power of technology. And that's what we're trying to do in Jio. We are taking bundled solutions. Yesterday, we launched a bundled solution for restaurants. We're launching a solution for pharmacies. So 5G is a part of that solution. But it's not just 5G, it's 5G, edge devices, and applications.
Yeah, if I could just add, you're spot on. If I look at the SMEs, their problem is no different from the large organizations. I mean, the data is data. They want to make insights of it. Mr. Kant, Mr. Pant basically said that if you're not a digital organization, you won't survive.
Yeah.
Right? You're not going to survive. So that's a huge opportunity to go and look at it. Just to also add, I absolutely agree. There will be packages available. We, in fact, are working with a lot of cloud service providers as well as yourself, bundle things together to provide that in, work it on a monthly basis as a service will come in. So as opposed to just going and saying, okay, this is your hardware, right? We're giving you a monthly bill for this.
Yeah. Since we spoke on the small businesses, Santosh, I thought I'd pick you up on, again, a large enterprise use case and go a little deeper onto that. So let's pick up this whole autonomous cars and the connected car ecosystem that one is talking about. And again, there are multiple such use cases. But, what does 5G mean from an Intel standpoint in terms of driving that innovation and helping feed that automotive computing ecosystem is an example that some of the large enterprises would want to relate to.
Yeah, I think from an automotive perspective, 5G is kind of like a tipping point because of the low latency benefits that you have, right? For a car to have any level of autonomy, the most important fact is for the maps and the signals to be having the lowest amount of latency. And that's what I think 5G really helps go achieve, which was different from the past. Now, one of the outcomes of the pandemic is that, car manufacturers really started thinking about semiconductors that they never even thought about before, right? So that was one of the big outcomes that came out of the pandemic. But what is important as semiconductor company is that a car today in the future, when it's an autonomous car, 20% of the BOM of a car is going to be semiconductors. So it's a substantial portion of which semiconductors can play a huge role in. The second part is that if you go look at the architecture that many of the car makers have, and this is not a pick on it, it is something that is being designed for a very long time. It's not changed. It's a 7-year cycle. There's about 1,400 different processors in a car, and one to raise your windows, one to shut the door. There's so many different small microcontrollers. I think there is opportunities where that can be re-architected to a modern architecture, right? Not everything requires a leading edge node, but I think having a few leading edge nodes and optimizing it reduces the dependence on that. So I think that evolutionary change is something that's happening in the industry, and we're super happy to go support that.
No, fantastic. I think we are not far away from a time where just about everything will be as a service. And just the culmination of everything that we've been talking about is going to make that come to life much more often. I know we're at the bottom of the slot, so I would have, as I would have loved taking a question from the audience, there's maybe just one question. Can somebody just pass on a mic, please?
The question was about China doing 6G and US doing 10Gs. I think that's his question. So if I can take a stab at that. Actually, for the first time, India is on the generation of telecom technology at par with the rest of the world. We took 4G few years later, 3G happened in India 10 years after it happened in Europe. But 5G, pretty much, India is rolling out 5G as you're seeing it elsewhere in the world. The work on 6G, by the way, has already started. So are we working on 6G. But we've typically seen a generation lasting about a decade. And we are pretty much, I think, in the second or the third year of the 5G decade.
And I think from my perspective, the proof of the pudding lies with, you can keep improving on this. But the opportunity for innovation across enterprises is something that we haven't lost the plot to the rest of the world. I mean, all the cases that we're talking about is an opportunity that is live and available today, and we have the infrastructure to make it come to life. So I'm an eternal optimist, and that's what I think I'd like to focus on.
No, you're absolutely right. So even at the 5G side, that it's not only here, and I agree with you, across the world, retail organizations, everybody's actually implementing this technology on 5G. Once you do this, once you have a solution that has been implemented, it's easy to go into the next level, whether you want a 6G or whatever it is. And likewise, the infrastructure, then you move into the next generation. But you need to get there. And 5G is still pervasive, it's still growing. And there's a lot of solutions that are being built around it. And it's easy to go and then as a next step, as you rightly said, to go and upgrade to that level.
That's absolutely the last question. I'd promised a 30-minute, but yeah, happy to take this last one.
My question is regarding security, privacy, whether it's a 5G or 6G or 10G. So how we are going to privacy? Privacy security.
I can take a stab at that. And you're right. Security, privacy is an issue, and it's an issue with the data also. So there's many aspects that are actually looked at. One is from an infrastructure standpoint, making sure that there's security. So if I talk about an edge solution, there's physical security. So for example, if it's in a railway station or outside in the street, someone pilfers it, there's a way of absolutely automatically wiping out everything. The second part is there's virtual security, so making sure that there's security out there. Look, there will always be a constant threat of making sure that security is taken care of. And that is being done in all, and when you go roll out a solution, that's a very important aspect of it. So there are areas that we can constantly look at, and it's, as I said, it's not just us, it's partnership. There's security organizations, that solutions that actually build up around that. Most important is, well, of course, also data privacy, making sure that that data privacy is taken care of.
Yeah, and maybe just to add a couple of things. One is from a technology point of view, we try and make this as best as it can be. But as Sumit said, it's never done, right? They will take 2 steps forward, we'll have to take another 3 steps forward, right? So it's a continuous cycle. Privacy has 2 aspects to it, right? And I'll talk a little bit more on privacy because I think that's an important topic. One is that there is a huge regulatory framework also that is very important to define privacy, right? And that is something that I know is, whether it's a data protection bill or whether it's some of the key policies that the government as well as the other institutional bodies are looking at is very, very critical because it kind of defines, an equivalent playbook across everybody in the industry. Otherwise, when it's not clearly defined, then there would be company A that will take a high standard, company B may take a different standard, and then it kind of gets implemented very differently across the nation. So I think one of the important things that we have to do is to ensure that we raise the bar on what that means for our country.
Yeah, Samir, we don't have our own hardware. We totally depend on China and Taiwan, and we are waiting for 2 years more to have our own semiconductor. So how we take the next 2 years?
So, can I just make a suggestion that this conversation continues offline? We all know the government, and, of course, Prateek also made that comment.
Sorry, I couldn't hear.
The conversation around our dependence on the Chinese hardware. And, it might take another couple of years for India to have its own indigenous technology. And to that extent, there is an element of risk or an exposure that one thinks. But, we've got to keep the wheels moving is my quick suggestion. And I actually think the whole advent of 5G is, if nothing else, creating greater opportunities for us to be able to create more security. It's like saying internet caused more security issues. I mean, you can do biometric checks, you can do smart contractings, you can do traceability. So it is something that's definitely taking us towards the right direction. But, at this point, I would like to, call the panel off. My only limited
I think they're ready to throw us off.
Sorry? Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
But great questions. Thank you very much. They were really good questions.
Thank you so much. Please give the panel a big hand. Absolutely fantastic.